Ladies and gentlemen, imagine this, a world where silence is not just the absence of sound, but the presence of power. A world where your quiet moments hold more strength than the loudest words. What if I told you that in 6 specific situations, silence could be the key to transforming your life? Not just in small, fleeting ways, but in profound, life-altering transformations that will shape your future, your relationships, and the very core of your being. Today, I want to show you the power of silence in ways you've never considered before. This is not the silence of weakness. This is the silence of wisdom. The silence that will make you stronger, more resilient, and more in control of your destiny. Picture yourself right now, standing on the edge of a moment that could change everything. You're about to speak, but something holds you back. The words hang in the air, waiting, but instead of unleashing them, you pause. You choose to be silent. And in that silence, something incredible happens. Let me tell you why. Silence in conflict. You've been there before. That moment when emotions run high, voices rise, and words become weapons. We've all been in situations where conflict seemed inevitable, where anger and frustration clouded our judgment, and the urge to respond immediately was overwhelming. But what if, instead of reacting, you paused? What if, in that crucial moment, you chose silence? In the heat of conflict, silence isn't passive. It's powerful. In a world that often prizes shouting the loudest, being silent is a statement of control. It's saying, I don't need to raise my voice to make my point. I don't need to lose myself in the noise. I can stand my ground in peace. When you remain silent in moments of conflict, you stop the escalation. You deny the argument the fuel it needs to burn. You create space for clarity, for understanding. You regain control over your emotions, and that, my friends, is when real power lies. Silence in conflict doesn't mean you are weak. It means you have the strength to choose peace over pride, composure over chaos, clarity over confusion. You become the calm in the storm. You let your silence speak volumes. And when you do, you'll see the power it holds, not only to transform the situation, but to transform yourself. Listening over speaking. Now, let me ask you this. When was the last time you truly listened? I'm not talking about the kind of listening where you're waiting for your turn to speak, but the kind where you put your own thoughts, your own words on hold, just to hear someone else, to understand them fully. In a world where everyone is rushing to speak, rushing to be heard, silence becomes a sacred space for deep listening. When you choose silence, you open yourself to another world. You create an opportunity to truly understand someone else's perspective, and in doing so, you unlock the potential for deeper connections, stronger relationships, and more meaningful interactions. Imagine if you took the time to listen, not just to respond, but to understand. How different would your relationships be? How much more would you learn? Silence is a powerful gift, not just to others, but to yourself. In listening, you gain insight. You become a better communicator, a better leader, a better friend, and a better human being. Silence in negotiation. Think of the last negotiation you were in. Whether it was in business, with a colleague, or even with yourself, there was probably a moment when you felt the urge to fill the silence, to rush to speak in order to settle things, to get what you want. But what if you didn't? What if you let the silence linger a little longer? There's an incredible power in silence during negotiations. The more you speak, the more you reveal. The more you talk, the more you give away your thoughts, your desires, your vulnerabilities. But silence? Silence is strategic. Silence is your secret weapon. In the midst of negotiations, staying silent allows you to observe, to read the room, to understand the emotions and motivations of the other party. It gives you time to think, to choose your next move carefully. It allows you to listen, to gather information, to strategize. Silence in negotiation is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength, of confidence. When you hold your tongue, you hold the power. When you speak less, you gain more. And that silence will turn the tide in your favor. Silence in the face of criticism. Criticism. For tween years, like every kind of criticism. We've all faced it. To sometimes, it's constructive criticism. There is profound power in silence when it comes to criticism. When criticism strikes, the silence you choose isn't a surrender, it's a shield. When you stay silent in the face of criticism, you avoid the trap of defensiveness. You rise above the temptation to justify your actions, to explain yourself, to argue your point. Instead, you maintain your composure. You let the criticism roll off of you like water on stone. By remaining silent, you give yourself the space to process the criticism in your own time. You allow yourself the dignity to evaluate what's being said without immediately reacting out of emotion. That silence speaks louder than any defense you could offer. It shows strength, maturity, and emotional intelligence. And when you choose silence in the face of criticism, you also reclaim your power. You regain control over your emotions. You stand firm in your own worth, undeterred by external judgments. In that silence, you hold your ground, and in doing so, you preserve your peace. Silence to cultivate peace. In the hustle and bustle of our daily lives, it's easy to forget the importance of silence. The world is noisy, constant demands, constant distractions, constant noise, and in all that noise, we lose touch with ourselves. We lose our peace. But silence, my friends, is the antidote. Silence allows you to step away from the chaos, to take a breath, and to reconnect with the calm within you. When you choose silence, you choose peace. You create space for your mind to rest, for your soul to recharge, and for your heart to heal. In those quiet moments, you hear your inner voice, the voice that knows what you truly need, the voice that guides you toward what is right for you. Silence allows you to clear your mind, to focus, and to find the clarity you need to move forward in life with purpose and direction. So let me ask you, when was the last time you gave yourself the gift of silence? When was the last time you took a step back, shut off the noise, and simply allowed yourself to be still? If you want to cultivate peace in your life, it begins with choosing silence. Choosing to step away from the chaos and into your own inner sanctuary. Silence for reflection and growth. Finally, silence is a tool for growth. It is in the quiet moments that we can look inward, reflect on our lives, and assess where we are and where we're going. It's in the stillness that we find the space to truly examine ourselves, not with judgment, but with compassion. When you take the time to be silent, to reflect, you open the door to growth. You allow yourself the chance to look at your actions, your choices, and your path. In that silence, you can identify your strengths and your weaknesses, your successes and your failures. Reflection without distraction is a powerful thing. It gives you the insight to make better decisions, to improve, to evolve. It allows you to set new goals, to chart a new course, to take the next step in your journey. But all of this So, in the rush of life, make time for reflection. Take a moment to pause. In that pause, you'll find the answers you've been searching for. In that silence, you'll uncover the person you're meant to be. The transformative power of silence. In these 6 situations, silence isn't just a passive act, it's an active choice. A choice that transforms your life in ways you may not even realize. Silence in conflict, silence in criticism, silence to listen, silence for peace, silence in negotiation, silence for reflection. All of these moments are opportunities for you to become stronger, wiser, and more centered. When you choose silence, you choose to take control. You choose to rise above the noise of the world and to become the person who knows the value of their words, the power of their silence, and the strength that comes from mastering both. So, I challenge you, embrace the silence. Let it be your ally, your guide, your strength. In silence, you'll find the power to transform your life. There are moments in life when emotions overwhelm us, and our instinct is to speak, to defend ourselves, to respond immediately. But in these moments, when we feel the heat rising and our hearts pounding, silence can be the most powerful choice we can make. This is particularly true in times of conflict. Whether it's a disagreement with a loved one, a colleague, or even a stranger, our first impulse is often to lash out, to make our point, to protect our ego. But in that moment of tension, the power of silence lies in its ability to shift the dynamic and create space for resolution. Silence in the midst of conflict is not an absence of action. It is a deliberate choice to withhold reaction. It is choosing not to fuel the fire, but instead allowing things to cool down. When we speak in anger, words often spill out that we don't mean, that we'll later regret. These words can escalate the situation, turning a simple disagreement into a full-blown argument, one that leaves both parties hurt, resentful, and further apart than they were before. But silence? Silence can prevent all of this. It creates a pause, a brief but powerful moment where emotions can settle and clarity can emerge. When we are silent in a conflict, we regain control. Instead of reacting impulsively, we take a step back, even if it's just for a moment, to collect our thoughts, to understand the situation more clearly, and to choose our response wisely. In those moments, we can choose to respond from a place of calmness, from a position of strength, rather than a place of hurt or frustration. Silence in conflict is an act of emotional intelligence. It shows restraint, maturity, and a deep understanding of the importance of managing our emotions. It's easy to get caught up in the heat of the moment, but true strength lies in being able to remain composed when everything around you is unraveling. Moreover, silence allows us to gain perspective. When we're embroiled in conflict, our emotions can cloud our judgment, making it difficult to see things from the other person's point of view. The more we speak, the more entrenched we become in our own narrative, and the less likely we are to listen. But when we choose silence, we open ourselves up to truly hearing the other person. We allow them the space to express their thoughts, their feelings, and their frustrations without interrupting or imposing our own views. In that moment of silence, we move from a place of reaction to a place of reflection, and it is through this reflection that we gain understanding. Silence can also be a tool for de-escalation. Often, conflicts escalate because both parties are trying to assert their own dominance or defend their position. The louder and more aggressive we get, the more the other person feels the need to match our energy. It becomes a battle, each person vying for control, but in the end, no one wins. But when one person chooses silence, it breaks the cycle. The silence forces a pause in the conversation, allowing both individuals to reassess the situation and their approach. It removes the tension and provides an opportunity for a more rational, thoughtful conversation to take place. The silence does not allow for the conflict to spiral out of control, creating an opening for a peaceful resolution. Furthermore, silence allows us to preserve our dignity and self-respect. How often do we speak in the heat of the moment, only to regret our words later? We often say things in the midst of anger that we don't truly believe, things that hurt the other person or that make us appear petty or defensive. Silence, on the other hand, prevents us from saying things we might later wish we hadn't. It allows us to maintain control over our words, ensuring that when we do choose to speak, we speak with purpose, clarity, and thoughtfulness. In this way, silence can be a form of self-care, protecting ourselves from saying things that may damage our relationships or our own peace of mind. Finally, silence has the ability to create space for healing. In the immediate aftermath of a conflict, emotions are often raw and words can feel like weapons. When the dust settles, silence gives both parties the time and space to process what has happened, to reflect on their emotions, and to come to terms with the situation. It allows for a period of self-reflection that can lead to growth and understanding, both individually and collectively. Often, once the silence has passed, the path to reconciliation becomes clearer, as the emotional fog dissipates and the situation can be viewed more rationally. In our fast-paced world, where everyone seems to be trying to be heard, the act of truly listening is a rare and powerful skill. Often we find ourselves waiting for our turn to speak, thinking about what we'll say next instead of focusing on what the other person is actually saying. It's easy to think that communication is about the exchange of words, but in reality the essence of communication lies not just in speaking, but in listening, deeply, attentively, and with full presence. Silence, in this context, isn't just the absence of noise, it is an active and intentional choice to listen, understand, and absorb what the other person is conveying. Listening is not merely hearing words, it is understanding the intent behind those words, feeling the emotions wrapped in them, and fully comprehending the message. This requires a quieting of the mind and the ego, setting aside our own thoughts, judgments, and reactions to be fully present for the other person. When we are silent in the face of someone else speaking, we offer them the gift of our attention, and in doing so, we create a space where they can truly express themselves. When we give others the space to be heard, we create an environment where deeper communication can flourish. What happens in that silence is transformative. It's through listening that we begin to understand the other person's world, their perspectives, emotions, and needs. This not only fosters better relationships, but allows us to engage in more meaningful and productive conversations. When we truly listen, we begin to see the layers beneath the words, to understand the emotions behind the arguments, and to empathize with the challenges the other person is facing. This depth of understanding is impossible to achieve when we are too busy speaking or preparing our own responses. In listening, silence also allows us to gather information and insight. Often, when we're caught up in our own thoughts and responses, we miss crucial details that could shift our understanding of the situation. By remaining silent, we allow the other person to share everything they need to, without interruption or distraction. This can lead to unexpected revelations, new perspectives, or solutions to problems we hadn't considered. Silence creates the room for clarity, allowing the conversation to flow more naturally, and for both parties to connect at a deeper level. The art of listening also involves nonverbal cues, things like body language, facial expressions, and tone of voice, that can often communicate far more than words alone. When we stay silent and truly observe the other person, we pick up on these cues, gaining a more comprehensive understanding of their feelings and emotions. In turn, this helps us respond more thoughtfully and with greater empathy. Instead of rushing to speak, silence allows us to fully absorb what is being said on both a verbal and non-verbal level, which leads to more effective communication overall. Moreover, listening through silence builds trust and strengthens relationships. When people feel truly heard, they feel valued, they feel respected and understood, and in turn, they are more likely to listen to us when it is our turn to speak. This cycle of active listening and reciprocal respect creates a foundation of trust, which is essential for strong, healthy relationships. By embracing silence in communication, we signal to others that their thoughts, feelings, and perspectives matter. We show that we care enough to listen without judgment, without rushing to fix, and without the need to impose our own agenda. Silence in listening also allows for a deeper connection with oneself. In the quiet moments of listening to others, we also reflect on our own thoughts and feelings. We find space to consider our own responses, to challenge our assumptions, and to learn from the perspectives of others. This reflection can open doors to personal growth, greater self-awareness, and emotional intelligence. The silence that comes with listening not only enriches our interactions with others, but enriches our understanding of ourselves. In contrast, when we fail to listen, when we speak over others, or when we interrupt, we miss opportunities to learn, to connect, and to build meaningful relationships. Our words become superficial, and the conversation is reduced to a mere exchange of opinions instead of a true, open dialogue. We can find ourselves more isolated, misunderstood, and disconnected from those around us. But by choosing silence, we allow the space for conversations to evolve into something more profound. A meeting of minds, a shared understanding, a bridge of empathy. The power of silence in listening, however, requires a conscious effort. It's easy to slip into the habit of waiting to speak, to focus only on our own thoughts and perspectives. But when we make the choice to remain silent, we make the choice to be present, to be open, and to genuinely engage with the world around us. The more we practice this active silence, the more we will notice the impact it has on our relationships and on our own personal development. We begin to understand not just what others say, but who they are. We begin to communicate not just with words, but with understanding, empathy, and connection. Listening through the lens of silence transforms us. It shifts us from a place of egocentrism to one of mutual respect. It turns us from individuals seeking validation into active participants in a dialogue, working together to understand, to learn, and to grow. And in this space of silent listening, we open the door to deeper, more meaningful conversations that have the potential to change our relationships, our perspectives, and our lives. In any high-stakes situation, whether in business or personal life, negotiation is an art, and silence can be one of the most powerful tools in your arsenal. It may seem counterintuitive at first. How could silence, something seemingly passive, be a strategy in a negotiation? Yet, the power of silence in negotiations cannot be overstated. When used wisely, it becomes a tool of immense influence, providing clarity, gaining leverage, and guiding the conversation toward favorable outcomes. The first aspect of silence in negotiation is its ability to create a moment of pause, something incredibly valuable when emotions are running high or when the stakes are high. Negotiations often revolve around complex decisions, both parties trying to achieve their best outcome. The pressure of reaching a deal can lead to hasty decisions and impulsive words, but silence allows both parties to step back, take a breath, and assess the situation more carefully. This brief pause can change the entire trajectory of a negotiation. It encourages reflection, allowing both sides to consider their position before moving forward. Furthermore, silence enables you to gather critical information. When you stop speaking, you give the other party the opportunity to fill the void, and more often than not, they will offer valuable insights. People have a natural tendency to speak when they feel there is an expectation for them to respond. Silence creates a psychological pressure, one that encourages the other party to continue talking, perhaps offering more than they initially intended. They might reveal their true motivations, vulnerabilities, or limitations, giving you a clearer picture of their position. This insight is priceless in negotiations, as it allows you to craft your response more strategically, positioning yourself in a way that maximizes your leverage. In addition to providing valuable information, silence can also act as a pressure tactic. When you stay quiet after a proposal or statement, you create a sense of discomfort for the other party. People often feel uneasy when there's silence, especially in tense situations. This discomfort can prompt them to act, whether it's offering a better deal, trying to justify their position, or conceding to a point they might have otherwise resisted. Silence subtly shifts the power dynamic in your favor by making the other party uncomfortable, causing them to feel the need to break the silence, sometimes leading them to make concessions just to end the uncomfortable lull. Silence also allows you to assert control in the negotiation process. One of the key aspects of negotiation is knowing when to speak and when to remain silent. Speaking too much or too soon can undermine your position by revealing too much too early. Silence keeps you in the driver's seat. It signals confidence and control. When you allow pauses in the conversation, it communicates that you are not desperate for a deal, that you are secure in your position and willing to wait for the right offer. It subtly conveys that the other party should be the one to adjust their expectations or offers, not you. The power of silence in this sense lies in the ability to project strength and patience, both of which are highly valuable in any negotiation. Moreover, silence helps you maintain emotional composure. Negotiations can become heated, with both sides feeling the pressure to defend their position or achieve their desired outcome. In these situations, words often become emotionally charged, clouding judgment and leading to poor decision-making. By remaining silent, you give yourself the time and space to think before responding. This pause allows you to choose your words more thoughtfully and strategically, ensuring that you do not say something you may regret or give away too much information. It also helps you remain calm and composed, which is crucial for maintaining an air of professionalism and authority during a negotiation. Another critical aspect of silence in negotiation is the way it can create space for empathy and rapport. While negotiating, we often become so focused on getting what we want that we forget the importance of understanding the other party's needs and desires. Silence, however, provides an opportunity to step back and listen, to truly hear what the other side is saying, without immediately jumping in with a counteroffer or rebuttal. This quiet attentiveness shows respect for the other person's position and fosters an environment of trust and cooperation. When you listen in silence, you demonstrate that you value their perspective, which can go a long way in building rapport and finding common ground, even in situations where there's disagreement. Silence also plays a pivotal role in preventing impulsive or unnecessary concessions. In the heat of a negotiation, there can be an impulse to settle quickly, to agree to terms that aren't ideal simply to avoid prolonged discussions. But when you resist the urge to speak and allow silence to guide the conversation, you avoid making rash decisions. You prevent yourself from agreeing to terms prematurely and instead use the space to reflect, gather your thoughts, and determine whether the terms being offered align with your goals. Silence helps you stay grounded, encouraging you to remain focused on the bigger picture and long-term objectives, rather than getting caught up in the immediate pressure of reaching an agreement. In addition, silence in negotiation allows you to control the pacing of the conversation. Many negotiators, especially inexperienced ones, rush through deals because they are uncomfortable with pauses or silences. They feel the need to keep talking in order to fill the space and maintain momentum. But seasoned negotiators understand that silence is an effective pacing tool. By allowing moments of quiet, they slow down the process, forcing both parties to think more critically and reflect on the deal. This pacing can be advantageous as it prevents hasty decisions and fosters a more thoughtful, strategic negotiation process. Finally, silence serves as a tool for diffusing tension. Negotiations can become emotionally charged, especially when both parties are passionate about the outcome. In these situations, silence acts as a cooling mechanism. It gives both parties the opportunity to collect their thoughts and calm down, especially if emotions are running high. Instead of escalating the conflict with words, silence allows the situation to de-escalate naturally. It shifts the focus from emotional reactions to rational, thoughtful decision-making, which is essential for reaching an agreement that is mutually beneficial. In conclusion, silence in negotiation is not about passive inaction. It is a deliberate, powerful tool used to create space for reflection, gather crucial information, assert control, maintain emotional composure, and build rapport. Whether it's through offering a moment of pause to create discomfort, allowing the other party to reveal more than they intended, or strategically controlling the flow of conversation, silence becomes a tool of immense influence. It shifts the balance of power in your favor, enhances your ability to make thoughtful decisions, and strengthens your position, ultimately guiding negotiations to a more favorable outcome. In life, we often feel the need to react, to speak, or to fill the silence, but as we've explored today, there are powerful moments when silence can be your greatest ally. Whether it's in the midst of conflict, during communication with others, while negotiating, or in many other situations, choosing silence can transform the way you approach the world. It allows for deeper reflection, emotional control, and creates space for understanding and empathy. Silence enables you to listen more attentively, act with greater intention, and respond with clarity, all of which contribute to stronger relationships, more successful outcomes, and personal growth. Remember, silence isn't about avoidance or passivity. It's about embracing a moment of stillness, a pause that can reveal far more than any words ever could. It's the strength to resist reacting in haste, the wisdom to listen more than you speak, and the courage to remain calm and composed when everything else seems chaotic. These moments of silence, though often subtle, hold the power to change your life in ways you can't even imagine. As you move forward, I encourage you to practice this power of silence. Be mindful of when to speak, and more importantly, when to remain silent. Let it guide you toward greater understanding, more meaningful conversations, and a life of greater peace and fulfillment. Good luck on your journey. Thank you for your time, your attention, and your commitment to personal growth. May you find strength in the moments of silence and wisdom in the spaces between words.